one has to really understand the trickery behind all these words. There is no time that our ancestors traveled all the way to the ports in Liverpool, to the docks, with a begging bowl, begging any country for resources. We were independent originally. Your independence is inside of you. They can't take it away, inalienable rights. It's my point. So for you to celebrate independence is an anomaly. Is an anomaly.
Your independence master that gave you
exactly
freedom.
He's telling you, giving you freedom, but you were never so it's all in the mind.
It's all in the mind.
They've shackled you to think that, we've given you independence, we've given you development, we're giving you are free.
Pretty much but like, was I in bondage before?
We were not in bondage, because if you went to different parts of Africa back in those days, even when they came, they saw legal systems. They saw people that had courts. They had their own court system. They had their ways of settling disputes. They had their own architecture. They had everything that was working in order. It was a civilization. This is my point. So the moment you understand that there was a civilization, they had a way of settling disputes. They had trade routes. They had silk routes. They had all these things. Even there was an artwork that was done by one of the guys from Britain that came to us and saw the Benin Empire, and he saw story building, and he drew it back in those days. So there was civilization.
The Portuguese said when they first had contact with the Beninese, right? As far back as 15th century, 1470 something, they saw street lights in Benin. This same Benin today, the Benin you have in Nigeria today.
That Oshomole has made a mess, and exactly,
oh dear, desecrating the land, man.
So in summary, Maigun, I can never celebrate independence, because for me it's an anomaly. That's number one, because I was never dependent in the first place. So why am I celebrating independence? For what? I was always free. We had a legal system. We were independent. So anyone celebrating independence must be the Western society, not us. So it's the other way around. So is all warped. I'm sorry, but Michael, is a warped way of thinking. And until we straighten that thinking, we will not go to get anywhere. And number two is in that name. So you are celebrating independence in a name that God did not call me. So it's even double whammy. I'm celebrating independence that I should not be celebrating, and I'm celebrating independence in a contraption, in a name that wasn't given to me.
Total Baba identity.
Baba, is just like a trained wreck. Chairman, let me leave. I want one person to call again. Let me leave. God bless you, sir. Bye, sir.
God bless you for us abundantly. Here we have.
Chairman, let me leave. I want one person to call again. Let me leave. God bless you, sir. Bye, sir.
How are you?
My good evening.
How are you?
I am Lady.
I mean, everybody is pretty much like these days, kind of becoming more clearer and clearer that they are shedding off that, this colonial identity. And, they said it many times, Charm, that some of us have mentally disconnected from this contraption. Or even though we are still somehow being dragged into it, attached to it, but mentally, we have disconnected from Nigeria. Indeed.
I mean, but you can't. I feel like that is the natural, trajectory. I believe, and I've always said something to you, right? And I'll always appreciate your platform. I really will always appreciate your platform, because even though there were things that were not clear to me, up until the time I joined your platform, but when listening to you, the conversations, even with other people's contributions, just like Adiola just finished talking just now, and everything, and it's just the natural next thing to do. Like, how will you still keep calling yourself a Nigerian, knowing the things that you know, knowing the history of the name, knowing the genesis and all of that, the origin stories of Nigeria? How would you, beat your chest and say I'm a Nigerian? These days,
sense of it, in honesty, would you
in all
say
honesty,
I am a Nigerian for real?
Absolutely. Even like today, when I talk to my children, even the youngest one, I say to him, you're a Biafran, you're an Igbo boy.
Yes,
this is who you are. I don't even, that's your true identity, right? And just like Adiola just said now, what are we even celebrating? We were always free, for goodness sake, before this madness happened, right? And then we have a country called Nigeria. Nobody knows the meaning. Nobody knows whether it was like a mockery or just, like, oh, we're gonna call them niggers, or we just call them, maybe like we'll just put, like nigger area, and then that's what it's going to be. And then here we are. And then we beat our chest. I mean, Nigerian. Do you know what you're saying? Somebody is having a laugh somewhere and saying, "Look at these idiots." They're going to say Nigeria. Do they know the genesis of their name? And like, I don't know. I've been watching your show, like, I'm just digesting everything that you've been saying, and I'm also like, democracy, this so-called democracy that we've been sold, is an absolute nonsense.
It's nothing similar to what these guys are practicing in their Western world. But they actually want us to keep saying it's a democracy. It is not.
It's not. We don't have a democracy. And even when you break down the democracy, the so-called democracy, even the West is practicing, down to the bolts and nuts of that so-called democracy, I feel like democracy is a weapon that has been fashioned against the whole world. Because, you're told that it's a vote for the people, by the people, but is it really, when you have one person that can unilaterally take a decision, right? But because they've been voted in quotes, right? Majority of the people will not have a say. We'll just hold their arms and be like, okay, yes.
You all come out and say, we reject what you guys are trying to do.
We reject what you're saying.
Because they have been given that power, they can override us and still do what they want to do.
Exactly. So
how does that make it a democracy, government of the
how does it make it a democracy? Even as being here, living in America, for goodness sake, and they say they have a democracy. Take, for example, the key issues of, like, say, abortion, right? Majority of the conservatives in the country do not believe in abortion. That is a large portion of them that do not want abortion at that very early stage, right? But now the government can unilaterally or bilaterally, with a couple of people, putting something into law, and that's it. And everybody has to toe the line. So is that really a democracy when now you have influenced my lifestyle, my choices, my beliefs by that one single law, right? So I feel like, again, democracy is a weapon that has been fashioned against us. It doesn't work for anybody, and most particularly for us here in Africa. There are things that we always believed. We always believed in family. We always believed in the sanctity of life, right?
Like now, we are community people. We are people that just believe that a community that stays together, grows together, and
grows together.
It is not what they are forcing on us, other than just
So there's so many things, and I really credit your platform for actually making me start to really think critically about the world that we live in, the things that we're doing, and just how we are. Whether or not we already know that we have criminals as leaders. In fact, ruiners. They're not even leaders; they're just ruiners, right? And I think the problem we have now is just how to get them out of there, just remove them from the country, right? And sometimes, I don't know if when you think back and you're preparing for your show and you're going through all of this research, doing all of these things, do you ever get the sense that, that somehow we are being led down a path that we might actually think that organically, or it's us going there, but it's actually them paving this way and saying, you know what, we want you guys to think this way. The reason why I say that is because of Hope Uzodinma. Hope Uzodinma came out of nowhere and decided, okay, whether he decided or the people decided or they've agreed amongst themselves that they want to do IDP in Imo State. Imo State, right? I was speaking to my sister because she's married to an Imo, my brother is from Imo State. So she's from Imo State, let me just put it that way, right? And they're saying she was talking to her that the myriad of problems that Imo had, you now want to introduce IDP on top of it, right?
Did you see my program yesterday when I said, do these guys actually connect with their people? Like it shows a lot of disconnection between those who are like the leaders and the led. And if they say, if you don't agree, they just bring in the military or bring some force to force you
or bring some force, and that's the end, and force the people to accept it. I absolutely agree with you on that point, that there's a massive disconnect. Imagine Tinubu talking about some kind of progress in code, and I'm like, are you joking me? What progress are you talking about? People are hungry, people are dying, people are choosing suicide, people are choosing to unalive themselves because of the current situation. It's a hopeless one. You know, if hopeless was a name, if hopeless was a place, Nigeria is it. It's a perfect example of where hopeless is, for goodness sake. And you are telling people that, you are working hard for them. Yeah, all is going well. Let me not even start talking about the so-called churchpreneurs that we have up and down the whole place. The one that they are buying a limousine or whatever. And I'm like, in a country where people are hungry, Rolls Royce, they are still doing all of that.
Insensitivity, charm. That's another thing about them as well. There is no empathy. There is no sympathy. There's so much disconnect between them and the people. Insensitivity.
Yeah. And, like what I was saying, that pathway, because they've been trying to drag the Igbos into something. And I feel like this particular one, if they do it, then they're going to get their wish. Because I don't know any Igbo person who is going to sit down and fold their arms and let, easy infiltration into the East, just like that. And if people think that this cannot happen, just look at Egypt. Let's take Egypt, for example. Today, Egypt, they don't know that, originally that is a black nation. Nobody knows that today. Because the whole place is now Arabized.
Exactly. And then turn it to Arab place. North Africa is never of Arab, but today, 200 years after, 300 years after, look at what the North Africa is today. Is filled with Arabs.
Exactly. And in fact, if you try to even remind them that is a black country, they laugh at you because they're like, oh no, that's it's not. They actually believe that they were the ones who were the
imagine the trick, right? When they are talking about the Middle East, in their map, in the map of Africa, right? You will see that it's Africa. Then when they are redrawing their map of the Middle East, they will take Tunisia, Morocco,
Libya, Egypt.
They will put them as part and parcel of the Middle East.
How? How? This is an African. And so if people think that they cannot change the demographic of a place, right? They cannot change disturb the homogeneity of a place. Let us just only look at Egypt and say, okay, you know what, this is possible. And I know that Biafrans will not sit down for this. So it's almost as if they are trying to unsettle.
I can guarantee.
No, exactly. It almost seems as if they are trying to unsettle the southern region of Africa, of that entity called Nigeria, and I don't know why. That's why sometimes when we are reacting, sometimes you have to step back and ask yourself exactly what is going on here. Why do they need this? Why do they need Nigerians undereducated? Why do they need the region underdeveloped? Why do they need the southeast or the southwest or the south fighting each other? Why do they now need for the Igbo people to rise up? Because this is going to be a problem if this goes down. You and I know this. Right, so it almost seems as if there is some kind of way, like where they're leading you and pushing people to go to, and this is really worrisome because it's almost as if because now we know whatever is going on in the world, they are preparing for a world war. Okay, let no one be in denial. Sure. There's a preparation for a world war. So let us start thinking about that and how they plan to recoup all of their losses during this war. Is by an unstable Africa, right? So this worries me a lot.
Thank you very much for letting that out of your chest, right? I appreciate this. And then, thank you very much once again. We shall call it a night now for that. So I want to say a big thank you to the following people. Libobs, I got your coffee. You got me some cup of coffee. Same thing with your mate or two. And this, my man, Odabo. So to everyone else, right? Thank you so much for sharing or spending your evening with me and everyone else in the temple tonight. We shall have another one tomorrow, okay? And until then, please do not leave without paying your offering. Like the broadcast, it's the most important thing you have to do, among others. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone. Good night.
Mayegun làwa mọ̀ làmọ̀ tó dòdòdò.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Mayegun làwa mọ̀ làmọ̀ tó dòdòdò.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Mayegun ti dé o ọ̀rẹ́ ará ìlú.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Lórí Facebook, lórí YouTube.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Gbogbo bó ṣe ń lọ ni Mayegun já wa sí.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Àṣírí ọ̀jẹ̀lú kì í bò níbẹ̀ o.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Bó bá ṣe eré àní Mayegun máa wí.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Ó sì tún ṣe eré wàá gbọ́ níbẹ̀ o.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Mayegun Diary, Diary Politico.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Godfatherism kò sí lọ́rọ̀ Mayegun.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Ẹ farabalẹ̀ sẹ́ o kẹgọ́rọ̀ lẹ́nu o.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Àní Mayegun làwa mọ̀ tó dòdòdò.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé. Mayegun ti dé.
Ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Lórí Facebook.
Mayegun ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Lórí YouTube.
Mayegun ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Bọ́ bàbá gbé wúrẹ́.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Ijó ìgbádìyẹ.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Bí pẹ̀sìdó bá rúfin o.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Bí gómìnà kówó jẹ.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Ọlọ́pàá tí ń gba rìbá.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Aṣòfin tí ń rúfin o.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Òpùrọ́ olóṣèlú.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Mayegun ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràkì. Mayegun ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràkì. Ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, ọmọ bá dèrò ní fi wọ́n níran o.
Mayegun ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràkì. Mayegun ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràkì. Ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, ọmọ bá dèrò ní fi wọ́n níran.
Wọ́n fowó bẹ́ẹ̀ o, Mayegun ó sọ pé wọ́n ò bẹ́ẹ̀. Wọ́n fowó bẹ́ẹ̀, Mayegun ó sọ pé wọ́n ò bẹ́ẹ̀. Oníkan ṣáàtì ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, fáwọn ará ìlú tó gbé wọn débẹ̀ o.
Mayegun ti dé. Gbogbo ní má ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dẹ́rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran.
ha kì máa yí ṣe eré ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kì í ṣe ẹ̀fẹ̀ kì máa yí ṣe eré ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kì í ṣe ẹ̀fẹ̀ ẹni bá ti lè lẹ́bọ̀ lẹ́rù o ọmọ bá dèrò kàṣàyè tú wọn síta.
Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kí. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kí. ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dẹ́rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran.
tẹnitẹni ọmọ Máyégún ọ̀rẹ́ ara ìlú mọ̀mọ́ ni mo fọlọ́run sọ ẹ̀ bá kìlẹ́bù lóòótọ́ olódodo ìlú ọ̀tá ìlú mọ̀mọ́ ni ìwọ ṣá máa ń ṣọ́ra kò sì mọ́ bẹ̀rù bọ́tà ń lè rí bóníṣègùn lé káwọn mọ̀mọ́ fi ṣera wọn ni ó ti dẹrùn tí wọn ò gbọ́dọ̀ sè mọ́bẹ̀. èèpo ọ̀bọ̀ lọmọ bá dérò tàjẹ́ ò gbọ́dọ̀ jẹ́ ó ti jọba lórí àbínú ẹni kò sì mọ́ bùyà àìsíwọ́lu ní ẹnìkẹ́ ìgbódì ẹyin lábàrá o ó kó ẹni tó bá dán o àkàmù. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ túnra kì. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ túnra kì o ẹni bá ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dèrò òní fi wọ́n níran o.
Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kí. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kí. ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dẹ́rọ̀ o.